Hello everyone, welcome to another Transformers review, and if you saw my last video you'll know that this review is Leader Class Sentinel Prime from Dark of the Moon. As you can see, I've got him out of his box and he's transformed in vehicle mode already. I'll just show you his box, just a little bit of writing on that side in different languages. These different modes there on the back with a slightly different paint applications on his shield to what you actually get, which is basically just grey with a couple of little gold bits and a little bit of Cybertronian sort of writing on. On the packaging it has got sort of red parts which do look a little bit better, and I may actually do that to it with some model paint, but I shall sort of see. Also I might pick out a couple of other little details which I think they should have picked out as well. Also there's another MechTech sort of mode, a battle mode for his fire engine mode, which is a little bit weird, but I will show you that before I transform it into robot mode. And the only other bit sort of like to show you on the box is the Leader Class Bumblebee figure, but that's pretty much sort of normal as well, as most Bumblebees are. Not the biggest fan of Bumblebee, I must admit, but there you go. As you can see, he's a Rosenberg, I believe that's the correct name for them, fire engine. I'm guessing more a fire engine for putting out aircraft fires, that kind of thing, on an airport rather than a street type fire engine. It's a nice model, pretty good. There's a couple of little issues if you want to be picky. It's like the rear wheels, you notice, tend to have a tendency to hang out crookedly rather than being square. That'll become obvious when you see how he's transformed, why that is. Other than that, I mean, obviously the windscreen, if it had been tinted a bit more, you can see a bit of robot kibble inside there, which is a little bit of a shame. If it had been a bit tinted, at least it would have hidden it a little bit. And obviously there's a little bit of robot kibble underneath, but it doesn't show up too badly. In this mode you've got a little grey button on the top there, and you can press that and you get fire engine siren, which is pretty good, you know. Obviously it's a nice touch to have the actual lights working on a fire vehicle like that. I'll go for his, the other sort of little bit of articulation I should point out is the fact he's got his firefighting sort of, I suppose it's called the sprayer. It's not really a ladder like a traditional fire engine, but to direct the hose sort of spray from inside the cab. As I say, you know, that's more on an airport sort of fire engine rather than a street type for buildings. But pretty good. It would have been nice if they'd have picked out a few more details, although he's got nice moulding applications here and there, and it's nicely detailed around, you know, more the traditional parts for the fire engine, which would be sort of roller shutters for equipment to be inside. But it just lacks a little bit, I don't know, a little bit more detail. Although you've got sort of 3 yellow lights at the back there, it would have been nice to have picked out like the orange for an indicator or a brake light or something like that. Yeah, it's just sort of like, you know, you've got the bulk of it is red, then you've got grey and black, and that's pretty much all she's sort of wrote. You know, it's just a shame. A little bit more thought for a little few colours would just have added a little bit of more detail. When you consider this is a leader class as well, it is a little bit of a shame. Right, so I should do his MechTech attack sort of mode. First thing to do is to release this top grey section, which is a bit of a pain to actually get in and all lined up with these side panels. Just need to lift that up. It's hinged at the front. Now you have to release, turn that around, you have to release the back parts. They separate from the black bottom parts, and drop those out. and also you have to unclip these side panels so it all drops out kind of in line, but as I say, this is a horrendously sort of fiddly figure with only little tiny clips which sort of line things up, which I think for any kid would be, I suppose they've got nimbler fingers than me, but it just makes things that little bit awkward. Again, got to do the same here. Best way is to release from the black part, release part just in front of where it's got the 316 sign there, and drop them out. Now it's supposed to really drop out together, but it never quite works that way. And then to reline them up is again a real pig of a fit. I think I'll leave it at that for now, just for speed for filming this. You swing out the little rocket parts out to the side there, and then drop the top back down, and that's got little square pegs which just clip in, again sort of minuscule amount really, for if they're hoping that they stay there, onto the back parts. There's just a little nib for it to sit in, and that's like the back. I'll bring that out just so you can see what I'm getting at as well with the box. Now they show like the hose part put round like that, and his double-ended sword attached on the top of his shield. So there's not two square pegs on the top there, two slots in the middle of the blade, and goes that way round and just sort of clips on. Now this shield does have another feature, I don't know if you could see that on the box, but as you put it on, which it goes on with two pegs which attach to these 2 points on the top there, it should, but not always, make a noise when you press this back part, because this, I should lower these down as well, that triggers all these parts to open up, but it hasn't done it. It is horrendously temperamental. And that's it, that's what it does. It does the flashing lights and makes a sort of jet noise. Now if, and I do stress if, I can actually get this back off, I'm going to have to resort to what I did before, which is to use the blade of something to carefully get in and lever up the plastic. The sword goes popping. It does do a transformation noise when it's removed. Now that's horrendously tight, and as you can see I've had to resort to getting a penknife out to actually pop it loose. I might have to sand down the pegs so that they fit a little bit better, but the downside of that of course is the fact that then it'll be loose. But if I try it with the end of a pen, you'll hear the sounds better, and as you see, so when you put it in it does the jet noise, when you take it out it does the classic transformation sounds. Again, it's a nice touch, but if it just worked a little bit better it would have made it more enjoyable. But as an actual battle mode, I'll just put it on again just so you can see what's on the box. You know, there you go, it worked probably that time. That's the annoying thing, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Press the top down and that's his Mech Tech attack mode. Now to my mind that's a little bit cumbersome. One of the pegs didn't go quite in. There you go. It actually works better with one of the pegs out. There you go. Maybe a little bit of an issue there, a moulding, maybe it's not out in line properly. But like I say, that's a weird attack mode by any sort of stretch of the imagination. And what sort of play value that gives you, I really don't know. but then you don't really buy it for that mode, so probably best to forget it. Now you just fold his shield back up and take his double-ended sword off, and now we get down to the nitty-gritty of the transformation. Again, you've got to lift and unclip at the back, lift up his back section. In here I'll show you what it looks like when it's actually up together. Now his legs are these back sections, and his arms actually go inside and sort of all clip in inside the form of the leg itself. When these side panels are back in fire engine mode, there's a black clip there which has to line up with the lower part of the black clip on. There's two notches there, has to line up with the lower part there, and you have to put the feet in crookedly like that to actually get it all in position. Now they do say that you can clip the sword by folding it in half, that you can put it inside there for storage, but that just adds a little bit too much, I feel, and it just stops the back shutting down properly, so it's best to leave that out, which explains why it wasn't in there when I first transformed him. Now I shall start transforming him. Now the first thing you've got to do is release these side panels, and they sort of clip and peg in to the side of the vehicle, but also into each other, so you've got clips on each one which connect it together, top and bottom, and at back onto the bodywork and into the side panel of the glass, all over the place. It's a real, you've got to read the instructions with this, you're never going to get it transformed, and even the instructions aren't that brilliant, to be honest. They need to go a little bit more detail. It wouldn't hurt if they actually had a written explanation with some of this transformation, because you've got to almost like really figure it out as you do it. Right, bringing all these bits all out madly all over the place makes it look even worse, and then you get into, let's try and think which way is best. If you release the arms out from inside the legs, like I say, the arms have got to go a particular way, so you've got to have the hand upside down when it goes in, and these black bits have got to be at the top on the outside of the arms. Now you can drop the whole lower section away then. You've also got to swing out the front section of the cab on the sides. This releases some more of the front. You've got to swing down these red pieces as well out of the way, swing the grey piece down. This is where things get really complicated. Swing the black bits out on the grey stalks just to get them out of the way, and they unpeg from this front black section. At this stage you want to swing up the head and swing the windscreen down flat. That goes back inside like so, really right down, right in, and then you bring the black piece up, swinging the little nose, I suppose water cannon, inside, and that tucks under his head. Normally you do a head reveal later in a review, but to be quite honest you need to do it now. Bring the grey piece up, and that pegs just either side of his head. You then bring the red piece up, and that helps form his chest. But actually no, there's a couple of other bits I forgot. You've got to bring these parts, swing the wheels down, bring the grey parts in, and swing the black parts in. Oh, and swing the wing mirrors behind as well, and they clip on the top there into that grey piece there, like so. So I'll show you on this one again. You swing the wing mirror in and bring it round and in and that's got a tuck and clip into the front, and that sort of bends. It's so many little pieces you've got to line up with these figures. Again, horrendous in some ways, but then the detail's nice in another. Swing the wheels up, I always put them up to an angle like that, and then you can swing the red piece in, and that helps clip in and hold the black parts of the chest. So that's his chest done. Now these black parts sort of hanging around the back here swing round to what I can only describe as a type of skirt at the back of the figure, and they clip together, and that's it for that part. Then you unclip what was the back of the fire engine to separate his leg parts. You've got to swing the rearmost wheel of the pair up and round, and that sort of just stays up on its own behind the other wheel, and that's pretty much that done. You've got to then swing back in the missile from that attack mode into its part there. This is a real headache, this thing. Swing the part with the Autobot logo round to meet the black part, and then that folds up like so, so it forms a back heel. I'll show you again on that. Bring the two of them round together like that, like an inverted T, and then flip them up so they form like an A shape, and then let's get this right. You've got to then swing, this side panel with the 316 goes round and clips, covering that wheel up, and then this is hinged. Lay that down to make it a bit easier. That's then hinged, I think. Hold on, which way are we going with this? This is, like I say, this is a very confusing robot to transform. I do have fun with this. You've got to bring that round to the front. That then, that's it. This part then clips in on the front, and that's it. The wheels just clip round the back, and that's effectively his leg. So I'll try and do that again to show you, as I try and remember myself. You've got to swing that bit against the wheel and that bit round, and it just clips in on the front like that. Now, not the most brilliant legs, which is why I was having a job figuring them out there for a second. The toe and heel is a bit weird. It's not the most stiff jointed foot of all the Transformers, and it does make it a little bit difficult when it comes to positioning and getting it to stand straight. I think they could have had a little bit of design sort of like rethink on that, but it's not bad. Right, now let's get back to his upper half. His arms are swung round on black pieces that are hinged below that main body panel underneath there, and they unclip from these pieces. Swing them round to the sides, then this whole section can swing down and separate, which forms like his cloak part, and I tend to have the water cannon arm like so. Now these arms swing out to the sides, and you've got a little tiny black clip there, a little tiny piece what sticks out there, a little black part, and that clips onto there. Now it's not very firm, but it does hold. And then of course you just rotate the arm round, swing the red bits down behind from the fire engine bodywork, and I tend, try and get that right, to then fold the arm round that way so the black part's hidden underneath. So again, I'll show you on this side. Bring that round, clip it into the side, swing the arm round like so. This is double hinged, so it just swings down behind. Bring the arm down, flip it round, and then just flip the hand round 90 degrees. And that's it for his transformation at last. Like I say, to do it without instructions, just out of the box, to try and get that into a fire engine mode is terrible. How many children given it for Christmas would do it, God knows. Now that's articulation. Now we've actually got him into robot mode. Yeah, he's got reasonable articulation. There is foot positioning. What there is of actually stability is another question again. But yeah, you could get him in a few poses. Whether he'll actually stay in them and stand up is another question. Arms, reasonable articulation. You've got the arm at the top there, but of course the red bit follows behind, so it's better off sticking that just as it is there. Lifts up to the side, turns at the elbow, and obviously the hand does 360 movement, and he does have, like, all together in one finger articulation for holding his weapons, which such as his double-ended sword, which you can put in his hand and close it so you can hold the weapon. They're not brilliant. They don't tend to hold that firmly. I just think it's a case of sort of like, you know, you're talking plastic trying to be firm enough to stay in position but also malleable enough to move and be played with, so that's a bit of a issue there. His other issue is the fact that his shield weighs so much that it does tend to flop around in his hand a little bit like so. It also tends to make the arm move, so it's not brilliant. It stays there and it stands, but that's pretty much all you can say about it. He does have obviously another sound feature in this mode, in the fact that he says his name, and of course his eyes light up, as you can see. Good in a way, but also it's not Leonard Nimoy's voice. Would it have been that hard to do a little sort of bit of speech from Leonard Nimoy just to put in a sound chip in there? You know, Hasbro really should sort of try and think some continuity between the films and what they're making and selling. All in all, it's a good figure. I mean, you know, I'm not going to slate it too much. It's a decent sized figure. It has got a lot of detail in itself as a transformer. Downside, as I say, you can look at it, there's not a great deal of colour applications there and little detail applications. They could have just picked out just that little bit more in the paint side of things. The moulding side's fine, I'm not saying anything on that, but just a little bit more colour in robot mode just to jazz it up. Or most of those panels you see in robot mode you don't see in the actual transformed vehicle mode, so they could have added in some more bits. It wouldn't have been bad, especially on a leader class figure, to have a bit of chrome. Wouldn't have been sort of that horrendous for him to have chromed the shield and the blade on the double-ended sword, which again, you know, would have made it look that bit more flash when you're considering that this is a deer figure. I did actually pick him up cheap. He's on sale at the moment at Tesco's, so normally he's about the £40 mark, but he's actually being sold for about 22 quid now. So if anyone's interested in getting one of these, that's where I'd recommend you go and have a look. They only had the Sentinel Primes, but whether they'll have any others in any of the other stores, I don't know. So you might be able to pick up a Bumblebee, or if they do the Optimus Prime in the same size. But I'd, you know, give it a look. It's worth a look. But that's pretty much it. You know, Dark of the Moon wasn't the best film in the world, but then it's still a Transformers film. And I must admit, at least out of most of the characters in the film, he did at least have a little bit of plot line. I don't mind seeing Leonard Nimoy's voice sort of coming back into it, because of course he did the original Galvatron in the 86 Transformers movie. But you know, putting in the odd bits from like references to Star Trek was a little bit cheesy. But that's not really this figure's fault. But there you go. That's the Leader Class Sentinel Prime in all his glory. Finally, if you're interested, I'd suggest picking it up, especially for that price. It is worth that, especially consider most of the normal MacTech size figures are over 20 quid normally. Yeah, he's worth getting for that sort of money. Spending 40 quid on him is a bit sort of, I'm not sure. I wouldn't quite go to that. But yeah, it's one to recommend if you can pick him up cheap enough. And I'd imagine, you know, on your shelf he's going to look pretty impressive, stood up against other figures. And that's about it for this review. Hope you've enjoyed it. I'll see you again for another review, either a figure or the book I picked up at Christmas. And I'll see you again.